On today's show, Alperen Sengun's scoring explosion helps lead Turkiye past Portugal to improve to 3-0 in the EuroBasket group stage. We're going to break it all down for you right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, merhaba, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets and Locked On Turkiye, your home for everything Houston Rockets and EuroBasket basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Thursdays. Be sure to follow along wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockets, where the best way you can help us grow our show is to listen every single day on a podcast platform of your choosing, and then like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. On today's show, we're going to talk about the absolute blowout win for Turkiye against Portugal. What is this? A çok kolay, easy peasy win. I hope I said that right. We're going to get into the game a little bit, talk about some of the adjustments and decisions from Coach Ataman throughout the game, get into Sengun's just absolutely dominant scoring explosion to help lead Turkiye to the W, as well as getting into some big picture stuff about Turkiye's chances the rest of this tournament, some of their biggest competitions and the things that they've got stacked against them a little bit further down the line. First, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Rockets part of your day every single day, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you so much for being an everydayer. Joining us now is a very special guest, good friend of the program, Serge Kumas. You can track down on social media at all his handles at Serge Kumas. And Serge, you cover the NBA for Trendbasket, and you know all things Turkish basketball inside and out. I'm so excited to have you here on the program to talk about Turkiye just absolutely beating up on Portugal in their third game of the EuroBasket group stage, winning by a final score of 95-54. Just a total bloodbath, for Portugal, unfortunately, but another dominant win here for Turkiye.
Yeah, man. I was talking to my friend. He lives in Istanbul, and I was gonna do like a FaceTime recording with him just to see, us both watching the game. After the third quarter, he's like, "Dude, I'm going to sleep. It's getting late. This game's in the bag." But yeah, man. Obviously, I'm the type of watching Turkey play in this EuroBasket and EuroBasket prior. No game is easy, so you don't want to take anybody lightly. But this was the game of the epitome of Sengun doing his thing again. Alperen Sengun playing great on offense, dishing the ball out, collecting rebounds off the glass. At the same exact time, you had each player playing their role to perfection. Guys like Furkan Korkmaz, former Sixers guard, now playing overseas. Orhan Bitim, former Chicago Bulls guy, now playing for Fenerbahce. You had guys like Shane Larkin, Jeddy did his thing. Even guys like Adem Bona, Erkan Yilmaz, who plays for FS, Kenan Sipahi. You had each player doing their thing. Sedat Şanlı, who was a veteran on this team, he's 33 years old, 34 years old. Even he's doing his thing. And so I think Ataman gave good rotations. I think he coached a really good game. Turkey did not let their foot off the gas. We won by over 40 points, and so that was just a really dominant performance. Turkey is 3-0. It's like a locomotive right now. It's got to keep it going for the most part.
Absolutely. And look, we're going to talk a little bit about this game and get into some, kind of bigger picture stuff, looking at the rest of EuroBasket, maybe some comparisons to how much this Turkiye team has grown from last EuroBasket to this one, and why Alperen Sengun is such a big part of that growth, and just how much better they look this time around as a collective unit, just his ability to elevate everybody that he's on the floor with. And that's who we should really start with when we start kind of breaking this thing down, is just taking a look at Sengun's game in this one. He was dominant again, and it's felt like each game so far he's ramped up his aggressiveness when it comes to scoring the basketball. He finished with 14 points after the first quarter. He had 20 points at halftime. He finished with that stat line, didn't score again in the second half, but he had 20 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, really started focusing on facilitating the basketball there in the second half. In particular, with that double big lineup that featured him and Omar Yurtseven at the same time, those two guys looked like they shared a really good chemistry on the floor together in this game.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to Omar Yurtseven and Alperen Sengun, they actually played together about 2 years ago when Turkey were playing in the pre-qualifier games for the Olympics in 2024. So this was about 2 years ago. I got to watch him in Istanbul. And I was like, I can't wait to see these guys playing EuroBaskets and in FIBA World Cups moving forward. So, obviously Omer kind of had a rough season with Panathinaikos because kind of inconsistent. But today, he was 7 for 8 from the field, I think. He almost had a perfect game. He was 7 for 7 from 2, 0 for 1 from 3, and played like maybe 16, 17 minutes. And so he had a great game. Seeing the dynamic duo of him and Alperen, I think, has been great. I think for Alperen, when he was playing 3 years ago, he was a 20-year-old carrying Turkiye. He was their best player, I think, 3 years ago, and he's their best player now. And I think as his game's matured, he kind of has, my friend calls it a FU confidence, right? He just goes out there and he just does not care who's in your way. Today it could have been Keita, who's a good player for the Boston Celtics. That was over with. Yesterday it was the Czech Republic, and before that it was Porzingis. So he kind of has that FU confidence. I love it. He's the alpha dog for Turkiye right now. And yeah, man, him and Yurtseven did well today. Alperen, I think he had like 14 in the first quarter, I think. And so he was just
14 in the first, yeah.
14 in the first quarter. He was just dominant. Turkiye got anything they wanted offensively. And the player Williams on Portugal, I think Shane Larkin also got him into a bit of foul trouble there. I think he had 4 fouls in the first or second quarter. He didn't go back into the midway through the third quarter, I think. So, a really good game executed by Ataman, coached to perfection, in my opinion. And again, each guy just did their role. So you just got to keep it going, 3-0. And so, I can't wait to just, see where we end up for sure.
With watching Alpi and his kind of growth and development over these, past 4 seasons with the Rockets, and again, talking about how he's looked going from, last EuroBasket to the Olympic qualifiers to then, playing in this EuroBasket, like it really does feel like he's kind of growing and coming into his own as a player. At one point on the broadcast, they were joking around talking about the fact that they've heard MVP chants for 3 different players so far. They've heard them for Jokic, very obviously. They've heard them for Porzingis, and they've heard them for Alperen Sengun. That's pretty solid company to be mentioned with. And the fact that right now, very clearly, Serbia and Turkey are the top 2 teams of their group, of their bracket. And so it feels like we're just kind of building towards what's likely to be obviously one more game in between, getting to the Turkey Serbia matchup. But it feels like we're building to that point where both Turkey and Serbia are going to be undefeated going into that final matchup. And that'll kind of be the indicator of where this team stacks up compared to Serbia being the, preeminent favorites to win the overall tournament, right, to place gold. And I think it's going to be a really great litmus test to see how this team ultimately matches up with the team that they're probably going to have to get through at some point if they want to place on the podium or win, walk away with one of the medals. Well,
I think, obviously, mainly focusing on Turkey, but I can't help, and obviously I got to focus on other countries as well. So if I were to go on a limb right now, I would just say Turkey, Germany, and Serbia have looked the best. I mean, Germany has scored over 100 points in all 3 games. Obviously guys like Wagner, guys like Daniel Tice, he always shows up well for the national team. Obviously, their point guard general, Dennis Schroeder's also playing well. And so for me, they look the best right now. Can't count out Greece. Obviously, Giannis is Giannis, but yeah, man, this is really building up to that marquee matchup of Joker and Baby Joker come Wednesday. So I can't wait. Got Estonia. Again, can't take anybody lightly in these international games. And so, yeah, man, it's really building up the momentum. I know EuroBasket's loving it. I know FIBA's loving it. I know the world's loving it. So, Serbia did play Latvia today, and they looked a little vulnerable there. Turkey beat Latvia by 20 points, and, Jokic had to really go off in order to take Serbia to the finish line today against Latvia. So I don't know. Some of my friends were saying, we have a group chat. They were saying, I think we beat Serbia on Wednesday. So I don't want to get too cocky, or look too much into the future, but take it one game at a time. But the more wins you get, the more momentum and confidence you gain going forward. And so we'll see what happens come Wednesday.
No, I love it. Serge has adopted some of that FU confidence from Alperen Sengun. That's what we love here. No, look, one I want to get into a few more things. We're going to talk a little bit more about the growth that we've seen out of Alperen Sengun. I want to talk about a couple of the coaching decisions that Ataman made in this matchup against Portugal, as well as getting into a little bit more big picture stuff down the line. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. College football is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than the energy of tailgates and being in the stands with your fellow fans. The only downside, trying to get tickets, endless queues, hidden fees, and prices that jump up at checkout. That's why I choose to use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Look, you can pull up Game Time, and in just a couple taps, you can see amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games as low as $25. And the best part about using Game Time, again, no hidden fees. They are fully transparent from start to finish. So whatever price you see at the beginning, that's the price that you're going to pay at the end. So take the guesswork out of buying your college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. All right, Serge, looking at what we've seen out of Alperen Sengun, as he's grown, as he's developed, what kind of stands out to you as to where he's at right now? Maybe the biggest improvement that he's made in his game, when you compare, how he was trying to lead this Turkiye team, a couple years ago in EuroBasket to how he's able to lead them now. Still the best player both times, but looks like a completely different version of himself this time around.
I think from what I've seen from these first three games, he's just a dog. I mean, I guess kind of a fun fact about me, I was a big Kawhi Leonard fan, when he was healthy. I think Alperen is that guy where I always said, if you have a Kawhi Leonard on your team, you can never count that team out. And I think the same thing goes for Alperen now. Man, just game in and game out, he just asserts his dominance off the jump, and I think back in EuroBasket 2022, he kind of would give it to their veterans a bit more, kind of like Jetty, Shane Larkin, and guys like that. Whereas if now he's that guy, and I think his teammates know he's that guy. Post game yesterday, they were saying he was 1 assist shy of a triple double. They were asking his teammates, like they were asking Jetty, they were asking Adem Barnes, they're asking Shane Larkin, hey, your teammate almost got an assist, and they're just so supportive of him. So even though you have veterans like Shane Larkin, you have the captain like Jetty Osman, I think his teammates know that he's that guy. And the way he's able to find his teammates, how he just scores in the post so easily, man. I think Porzingis after the game, they asked him like, why was it so hard to guard Sengun today? He's just really good, man. When he feels your body, he turns on you. He's super talented. And Porzingis he's a good player. He's no scrub, And so, again, man, his mobility has gotten better. His confidence has grown. His touch and everything has just gotten to a whole different level. So one of my close friends was telling me today, dude, what's he going to look like when he's 27, 28? Like, if it's going this well right now, what's going to happen 3-4 years from now, So, again, confidence has grown, touch has grown, and he's just, sky's the limit for him for sure.
Well, it's nice to see the touch back to where it was, because the touch was good.
Yeah.
And now the touch is back to where it should be. So that's certainly an encouraging sign here to see. And what's funny is watching him go up against like Keita in this Portugal matchup is it's one of the things that's so unique about Alp to me is his ability to adapt his game to fit a variety of circumstances, right? If he's playing against, bigger, stronger defenders, he uses his quickness, his agility, his finesse to get around them. When he's dealing with lengthier defenders, athletic guys like a Keita type, he'll use his strength, he'll use misdirection. Like, he has so many weapons in his bag to be able to be effective on the floor. And in this one, right, he did the thing that he's done in these first couple of games. Basically, he comes out, he looks really aggressive from the jump, trying to score the ball for himself, really setting the tone for his team. And then as the defenses start to adjust, start to try to slow him down, that's where you see the mental shift where he's like, okay, now they're sending double teams. Now they're sending two bodies at me. This is where I can open things up and start really facilitating. And again, he had 20 points at halftime and didn't score again at all in that third frame, but he racked up, like, I want to say 3 or 4 assists in that third quarter because they were putting so much defensive attention on him, and playing in that double big lineup with Yurtseven really unlocked a little bit more for him. He's played down one position at the 4 instead of the 5. And that caused some, mismatch issues for Portugal, not really having a way to slow him down and deal with the size that Yurtseven provided in the middle. And I want to give Yurtseven a little bit of credit here, because I went in on him last episode, and some people were giving me some they were in the comments and on social media. They were like, "Hey, maybe Yurt7 listened to the show because he kept the ball high." I was begging him. I said, "Keep the ball high and you'll dominate." And he kept the ball high and he had 14 points on almost perfect efficiency. So.
Yeah. I heard you're at Jackson. He's like, "Oh man, Jackson from down south in Houston." Yeah, 'cause I actually saw that tweet too, and I was like, "Man, he does hold it high a little bit. If he holds it low a little bit, if he keeps it high, he'll be okay." So, but yeah, no, man. Jackson, I guess shifting gears a little bit. One matchup that I kind of wanted to see that I haven't seen yet is I just don't know how Turkiye utilizes Adem Bona. I mean, this guy's an NBA player. He's 22 years old. I just, he played, I think, he played the entirety of the fourth quarter. The game was pretty much gone then. And so I've been watching Adem since he was at U16, U17 level for Turkiye. I just don't know how Ataman kind of inserts him moving forward. I know he wants to play. You have guys like, Yurt7's played more than him. And so even today, Sertaç Şanlı got more minutes than him before Adem got into the game. And so I just don't know how Ataman really inserts him, so to speak, but I guess we're just going to see that moving forward. He's super athletic. He does have a hard time in the pick and roll a little bit, but I guess we're going to see what he has in store for him moving forward.
I mean, it certainly feels like, and here's the unique thing, and this is the benefit of when you have a player like Alperen Sengun who can be plugged and played with so many different other versions of bigs, right? You basically have 4 different versions of a big that you can slot out there with Alperen Sengun. You have Adem Bona, the athletic kind of rim running, play above the hoop kind of big, little versatile defensively, super athletic. You've got Osmani, who is your floor spacing big to complement Sengun. You have Shanley, who's your veteran, crafty, smart, high IQ, but a little bit slower, not as athletic as some of the other guys, unfortunately. A bit long in the tooth throughout all the different expressions. And then you have Yurt7, who gives you the biggest size of any of these guys. He's like he's your Turkish Shaq, basically. Great rebounder. The touch, and the craft around the rim, a little questionable at times, although it was on much better display in this game. So that's a benefit. And the reason it works is because you can pair Sengun with any of these guys, and they're all perfect complements in their own way. And my thing is, we've only seen it a handful of times, but the big to big game between Adem Bona and Alperen Sengun is really great. Like, their chemistry is really nice. We saw it exactly one time in this game, but we saw Bona come up and set a screen for Sengun and roll to the rim, and Sengun was able to loft the ball over the top, and it was an easy bucket, right? That seems like something that they could spam if they wanted to and just run that play kind of repeatedly and just wait for the defense to figure things out. My issue is it feels like Ataman is opting for more so the spacing, right, that Osmani provides to allow Sengun to go to work, because unfortunately Bona doesn't give you that same amount of spacing. Yurt7 doesn't. You don't get the same spacing with the other bigs that you do. So even though there's certain benefits to the other versions of that double big lineup, it certainly feels like Osmani is the best fit right now. But I do agree. I'd like to see Ataman use Bona and Sengun in certain situations a bit more effectively, like even if it's just 10 minutes a game, but you find that 10 minutes to pair Bona with Sengun, because they work really well with each other.
They do, and they played at the U16, U18 levels, and so they're familiar with each other. I was talking to Adem back in the winter. I'm like, "Hey man, you're gonna play for Turkey this summer? You gonna play for Turkey this summer?" He's like, "Yeah, man, I'm down. As soon as they give me the call, I'm gonna go to Europe back this summer." So, again, he's super athletic, and I think he's just gotta utilize him a bit more. But Osmani had a good year with FS in the EuroLeague and the Turkish Basketball League. So him being in the starting 5, I think, is great. I think the starting 5 has worked really well for Ataman, and also one key thing that Turkey has this EuroBasket, Jackson, they haven't had last EuroBasket, is just depth. They have more pieces now. The last EuroBasket, Yurt7 didn't come. He had some other things going on, and so he had a young Alperen Sengun. Furkan was a bit better then because he had just came off a good year with the Sixers. But again, they have more depth now, more experience now, and they've yielded good results so far. So
I will say on the point about Korkmaz, I want to give Ataman some credit here, because they made a lineup change at halftime in this game against Portugal, and they started Yurt7 over Osmani, and they also started Korkmaz over Sipahi in the second half. And on the broadcast, on the courtside broadcast, at least, they were talking about, Ataman probably did this for like defensive purposes to like match up better with Portugal. And it's like, well, you were already dominating the game. I don't think this was like an adjustment because they were worried about, like, I fully believe that this was an adjustment Ataman made to help garner some additional confidence for both of those guys, right? Guys that are still important depth pieces for Turkiye, and to get to a point where, like, again, you saw Yurtseven really struggle last game, and he hasn't been great through the first 2 games. So you have this game, right, where it felt like a good, strong matchup. You can pair him with Alpi. You can have Alpi kind of spoon feed him some buckets, which is exactly what happened there in the third quarter. And then for Korkmaz, he's still very talented and very capable of being a guy who can carry you to an individual win, right? If he gets hot in a given game, he's a great shot maker. He can run your offense. He can be a primary ball handler. He's just, again, a little maybe outside of his prime at this stage in his career. But I thought it was just a great move to see him give both of those guys some additional run at the top of the second quarter, playing alongside Alpi, playing alongside Jetty, to, let them play with the A team essentially, and Shane Larkin, obviously, to let them play with those guys and really kind of hopefully unlock their confidence so they can build off of this game moving forward through the rest of the tournament.
Yeah. And I think Jackson, another player that I think is worth mentioning, of course, in this game is Ergin Ataman, former Chicago Bulls guy. He's now playing overseas. He had like 12, 13, 14 points there. And so I think there was also one point, I think, in the second quarter where Furkan got the steal, gave a behind the back pass, and then you had Ergin Ataman just go with the crafty layup. And so when you have guys like Ergin Ataman coming off the bench, Furkan, Korkmaz, Yurtseven, you had these guys scoring double figures and contributing as they did today. Turkiye is going to be kind of hard to stop moving forward. You have the bench contributions, you have the starting 5 contributions. Combine those two, you're going to have a really good team that I think can potentially medal in this tournament, which is what I'm hoping for, which is what we're all hoping for, I think. So, yeah, man. So hopefully it just keeps going.
Coming up, I want to talk about what is going to be the biggest inhibitor to Turkiye winning the tournament. What's the biggest weakness this team is currently faced with? We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And look, there's so many different ways to bet using FanDuel. You can keep it simple if you really want to, and just go straight to the NFL futures odds. Right now, the Ravens leading the way at plus 700, the Bills and Eagles both plus 750, the Chiefs sitting at plus 850, and then Detroit Lions in distant 5th place at plus 1100 to win it all this season. You can check out their parlay builders. They have different specials all throughout the season. Maybe you're feeling bullish on CJ Stroud and the Texans. You want to claim them as division winners early on before even a single game has started. You can do all of that over at FanDuel. If you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets and Locked On Turkiye for all things Houston Rockets and EuroBasket basketball. All right, Serge, I'm not clearly as in tune with the Turkish national team as you are, the strengths, the weaknesses, the ins and the outs of a lot of these players. If you had to identify probably the biggest weakness right now for this Turkish team, the thing that might hold them back, either in a matchup down the line with Serbia or a medal game, what right now would you identify as the biggest struggle? And do you see them trying to overcome that struggle at all at this stage?
Well, I think one struggle that was a really glaring issue that they had, especially in the exhibition games prior, was the three-point shot. They could not shoot it at all. And so in that first game against Latvia, they had 15 threes. I think they had 7 against Czech Republic, and they had 9 today against Portugal. So far, so good. They're shooting it pretty good. But my thing is, what if they cool off too much and they just can't get the 3-ball to fall? That was my fear going into the tournament. A lot of people on social media were saying that, oh my God, we can't shoot. Jiddy can't shoot. Furkan can't shoot. Nobody can shoot. So I think that was the biggest glaring issue. And my biggest fear, after every game, I check how many threes did we make and how many did we take. Today we were 9 for 20. That's good. I believe yesterday we were 7 for 16. So good, around 40-50% per game so far. And so my biggest thing is, what if we cool off too much, and what if we just can't make, anything from 3-point land? I think defensively we're okay. I think we can guard anybody. I think Sengun can do a good job on Jokic. Obviously can't stop him, but hopefully to contain him in that marquee matchup. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is just the 3-point ball. Because in the exhibition games we're just terrible. We played 5 friendlies before this tournament, so we saw a good sample size there. But yeah, that's my fear, Jackson, is, man, in one of these games we're just not going to get anything from 3. It's going to hinder our confidence, and we're just going to probably yield, which I hope it doesn't happen. But that would be my biggest concern moving forward for sure.
I will say it's funny, kind of the certain similarities between this Turkish team and the Rockets, because the 3-point shooting was the Achilles heel for the Rockets as well, but they got by on the defense, the toughness, leaning into the double big identity, and and there's also some similarities between Ataman and Ime Udoka in the sense, like I even the technical fouls, man,
I saw that.
Straight up besties, man, or right out of either Ataman right out of the Ime playbook or Ime out of the Ataman playbook. I think Ataman's been around for a little bit longer than Ime, so we'll have to give him the benefit of the doubt on those technical fouls. But I do, I like the defense that I've seen out of Turkiye so far, especially some of the perimeter defenders, man. Like Bitsson was really good in this game against Portugal. We didn't see him in the previous couple games, or at least not in like the main part of the game. He might have played in garbage time. I apologize for not knowing that off the top of my head. But I liked what we saw from him, from Seamus too. Seamus only wound up playing 7 minutes in this game. I don't know. Did you catch anything during the broadcast or after the game? Do you have any idea if he's okay with the injury, or were they still monitoring him or anything like that?
So he did warm up during pregame. I did see that, but I think it was more so like a precautionary thing. I think Ataman didn't want to risk it. I mean, Sapai was fine too, but Sapai only played, I think, about like maybe 8, 9,
12,
minutes.
13 minutes.
Yeah, not a whole lot. So I think the guard rotation was pretty heavy in this game. Obviously Shane led the way, but I think Seamus is fine. Not lipping or anything. So I think he'll be good to go for the games moving forward.
Just he was so beneficial defensively, I thought, last game, and then didn't have as much of an impact in this game, but it's been great to see how each of the different guards are able to step up, because that's where a good defense starts, right? Is you need to have that solid point of attack defense. You need to have pressure from your perimeter players so that you're not putting all of the onus, all the work on your bigs to cover your ass on the back line. And as long as you're doing that, as long as you're playing team defense and really getting the job done on the perimeter, making life harder for that initial dribble penetration, the initial attack of the offense, then your bigs are in a better position to be able to help contain when there are mix-ups, when there are mistakes. And so far, Turkey's defense has looked really, really solid through these handful of games. Again, holding Portugal to just 54 points. Their plus minus is ridiculous right now through their first 3 games. They have a plus minus of 75, which is far ahead of Serbia's plus minus of 49. Those two teams far and away the two best of this Group A stage through this tournament. I know we've talked a little bit about Serbia being, obviously top dog, the overwhelming favorite to place gold in the tournament, and mentioning a couple other teams in there, right? Obviously Germany. Then there's Finland with Lauri Markkanen as well to be aware of. When we look at, because right now after this game, both Turkiye and Serbia have locked in a spot in the 16 round, the knockout stage of the tournament. I am unfamiliar, and I should have checked this out before we started this up, but after this stage, after the group stage, they've mentioned it a little bit on the broadcast. How does it work as far as who Turkiye will face after this round? It's dependent obviously on how well you do in the group stage, but then who are their likely possible opponents to face for the first game of the knockout round after it's all said and done here in the group stage? Yeah,
so we are Group A, or I just want to double check that though. I don't want to.
Group A.
Group A. Yeah, so we will play. I think if we finish A1, so Group A1, we play. I could be wrong here, but we play B3. So we'll play the third place of the B group, which is right now looking like Lithuania. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. If we play A1, I believe we will play B4. So we'll play the fourth place, because the top 4 teams advance, right? And the
the top team, top teams play the worst teams of the other group, essentially.
Okay. And if we finish A2, we'll play B3. Finish A3, we'll play B2, and so on and so forth. So right now, if we were to start the group stage tomorrow, we play Sweden. They're B4 right now, 4th place in Group B, and we would play them in a round of 16, and it would just.
And then the tiebreaker here is going to ultimately come down to who wins between Turkiye and Serbia in that final game. Assuming both teams go fully undefeated into that final game, then it'll be decided, who's the top of the bracket, who's in second place in this group. So that could be the difference, right, between playing Sweden, who, to my knowledge, doesn't have like an NBA caliber talent on their roster, at least not a present day one. Versus, even Lithuania, who has, Jonas Valanciunas, and that's a lot to deal with, right? The top 3 teams in Group B, Germany, Finland, Lithuania, they're seem like a significant cut above Sweden. So that would be a much easier first game opponent if you're Turkey, instead of having to deal with one of those other teams that is going to be a lot stronger probably right out of the gate.
Yeah, I mean, my buddy would talk about this probably a week or two ago, and I hopefully we'll talk about it later, but I think we might get like a marquee matchup in the quarterfinals, because I think if we'll have to play someone, I think from Group C. We'll talk about it hopefully later, but hopefully when as the tournament advances. But I think we'll get a marquee. Our first like formidable opponent in the knockout stage will definitely be, I think, in the quarterfinals. So I think if we were to go through the quarterfinals, I think we definitely medal being in the semis and then playing a third place match and so on and so forth. So my biggest hope, Jackson, is we medal, man. We haven't medaled in EuroBasket since 2001. So it's been a minute. It's been a long time. And then 2001 was a great generation. Gidiu Turkoglu, Mehmet Okur, Ibrahim Kutlay, and so dude, we haven't medaled in EuroBasket in a very long time. So hopefully we do it, fingers crossed.
Hey man, look, we don't talk about Mehmet Okur on this podcast.
I know, I did.
He haunts my dreams, and he haunted a lot of Rockets fans' nightmares, dreams, whatever, for a couple straight seasons playing for the Utah Jazz. Those Jazz teams with Okur and Boozer and Darren Williams, I will never forgive those teams. They ruined some of my favorite years of my childhood watching the Rockets. So no, I kid. Look, it's cool. It's cool to have to know that there's previous connections to the NBA and to the Turkish players that have been in the league prior. And it's fantastic to watch Alperen Sengun really growing and embracing his role as this, Turkish superstar, frankly, because that's what he is, right? He's, seeing the way that the fans react to him, seeing how like assimilated he is to American culture, because he's had 2 straight games now. He had he blocked a shot last game and just was talking mad smack afterwards. He was cursing up a storm. Can't repeat what he was saying on this podcast. In this game, he was D'ing up on somebody and they put up a shot and he turned around to the rim and he went, "Oh hell no!"
That's the FU confidence, man. He's because you have these European guys who go to the league, and Dirk actually talked about this when he first came to the league. Was people thought he was soft. People thought Yao was soft, being international guys. So I think having the attitude that Yao has, I'm sorry, not Yao, but Alperen has, just it's a must, because if you don't have that, then they're just gonna step all over you. So, so for sure.
Absolutely. No. Well, look, it was a big time win for Turkiye. It was another dominant victory for them. They're now 3-0 in the tournament. They've got 2 more games here in the group stage. And Serge, we're definitely going to have you back here on the program to keep helping us recap and talk about hopefully what will ultimately be a medal run for Turkiye. Why don't you let everybody know where to track you down at and what you got coming for us content wise?
Yeah, man, you can find me at Serge Kumas on Instagram, on X or Twitter, whatever they call it nowadays. I'm getting too old for that stuff, but man, find me on there. I tweet all things Turkish basketball. Me and Jackson were talking about it before the broadcast, but a lot of guys are coming over to play high major D1 this year, places like Penn State, Nebraska, Miami, and so on and so forth. So, hopefully we'll see more Senguns in EuroBaskets and World Cups to come, man. Hopefully this isn't it. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, man, for sure.
That's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Rockets. As always, thanks so much for checking out the show. Remember, the best way to help us grow the program is to listen every single day on a podcast platform of your choosing, and then like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rocket basketball.